Hello and welcome to the Second Win Academy podcast with me, your host, Ryan Gonsalves. Now, we're going to go back to an episode that I did with Laura Dury, a former professional footballer who has transitioned into a successful career in tech startups. Now, Laura's journey is filled with insightful career decisions and personal growth. In fact, I have to say I really enjoyed her honesty in how she explained how she had to manage her emotions and tone of voice when it came to getting the best out of her sort of corporate team, very different to shouting at everyone as a goalkeeper on a football field. But look, we're going to go through her journey, so we certainly explore what she describes as an addictive sort of passion for football and being recognised for her skills, sort of getting that pat on the back, something that really comes out in terms of feedback. We also go through her time at Ajax, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, and certain challenges that she faced, such as not getting paid initially, but then also a so-so culture regarding of a female football at that time. But we take a sort of a pivot, talking about her injury just as she was about to join Olympique Lyonnais, one of the biggest European clubs in women's football. So then we take that shift as she transitions into tech, and after completing studies, Laura has, I guess, really found her niche in the fast-paced world of startups, where she gets to kind of be an entrepreneur without the full responsibility at this moment of owning that firm, but she really thrives in that leadership. So Laura really emphasizes the importance of adapting and finding new positions after sport, and certainly advises others, as you'll hear, to recognize your talents and embrace those opportunities for growth. As she says, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and it's quite exciting to learn and evolve again. So look, join me. As you can tell, I really like this one in my conversation with Laura, where we discuss how she's navigated some of her sort of career transitions. Listen, if you like this episode, or indeed if you've got any thoughts, please drop me a note in the comments below. Thanks a lot. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. Excited.
Yeah, great. I'm glad to be speaking to you today. I know that there's probably a lot to get through. I think for someone so young, you've been through quite a bit, ups and downs in terms of emotions in sport and outside of sport. So quite looking forward to delving a little deeper into your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's say, well, happy to be here.
So yeah, great. Well, listen, let's get started. So, for those who don't know who you are, can you just give me that intro? What are you up to today?
Sure. So, my name is Laura Dury. I'm living in Amsterdam, and currently, I work at a tech startup called Upright. I'm as the growth manager, which is basically the marketing person, which I've been doing for the past couple of years in such a role, but coming onto a year at Upright currently.
That's good. And how do you find the role?
I enjoyed it a lot. I think startup life is very fitting to me. It's like a lot of responsibility, a lot of tasks. Like if you do marketing, it's just not one focus area, it's multiple. And you get to make a lot of impact and show a lot of leadership. So I really enjoy it actually.
Yeah, that's good. I suppose, you talk about that from a startup perspective. You have to be, I guess, prepared to jump in and help other people out. It's, not in this big organization where you have this little thin slice of activity, but it's really getting stuck in a bit, right?
Yeah, it's really as if you're an entrepreneur, but you're not because you don't obviously have that kind of responsibility. But it is sort of, setting up shop beyond just a specific part. So you do help around, you help with product stuff, you help with sales kind of stuff. And for me, that is exciting because you really get to understand the business from in and out. You see the entire operation go round, and you learn a lot from that. And I say you get to make a lot of impact. So that's really exciting to me.
And what is it about the impact that is exciting?
I think if you would compare it to working, as you say, like on a small piece of the slice, that's all you sort of see. But if you get to work on a lot of things, or if you get to work, let's say, in marketing from beginning to end on a campaign, you actually see sort of what your idea was actually in action. So you can really see, okay, I thought about something and now it's actually adding value to our company because it's now live and running. And that kind of impact is really nice to have and fulfilling.
Yeah, yeah. I was I was going to say that bit. Do you find it, or to what extent is it fulfilling for you? Do you feel, this is great, my baby, start to finish?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think like maybe some entrepreneurs also kind of feel like it's your baby, and that's sort of what I feel when I work in. Well, I've had a couple of startups that I've worked for that I really enjoyed, and I really felt like it's my company as well. So you really do put your heart and soul into it. And for me personally, that's something I probably need. You really want to, at least for me, I want to work somewhere where I can actually feel that I'm part of something instead of just like a 9 to 5 job that I go to and leave, close the back door again. So for me personally, that's a very important part, that fulfillingness and that sort of ownership. Yeah.
Hi, it's Ryan Gonsalves here. Thanks for tuning in today. I just want to take a moment to ask you an important favor. To help grow this channel, one thing will do that above more than anything else. Please hit that subscribe button. By hitting that subscribe button, you help me to grow the channel, allowing me to create more tailored content, improving the quality, and also to develop additional services such as the workshops, one-on-one sessions specifically designed to support elite athletes in that difficult transition to that career beyond sport. So if you want to join me on this journey to help inspire, guide, and connect individuals to find their second wind, please hit that subscribe button. And I guess one of the bits that it does make me think of is that sense of belonging we have when we're in football, when we're in sport, that team, that joint purpose. So I suppose let's wind back a bit for you then, the journey to how we got to here, and talking about the impact and the fulfillment that you have in your role today, looking after growth. So for you, sports, for you as a young lady growing up, what was sport for you?
Well, it's basically everything. I started from a very young age playing football. I was 4 years old. Basically, it's my dad played, my brothers played, and they were all obviously older than I was. And I just enjoyed it a lot. It became fanatical, playing outside, going to training, all this kind of stuff. Um, and at a given moment, you notice that you're really good at something, and you sort of hang on to that as well because it's fulfilling to be really good at something and to get, admiration for that. Um, so that's something that was always drive me as well in football, being the best at something. I think that's something I also take with me in my current situation. It's almost addictive in a way. Yeah.
I like that addictive nature. So it's addictive being good at something, being a master at something, right? That's what you're saying. But then also feeling a sense of becoming the best as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the funny thing is, like, I used to be a goalkeeper, so I used to be a very specific master of something, like a specialist. But in my current role, I'm actually more of a generalist, where I do a lot of things, but I'm never a specialist in anything, except for sort of managing the whole lot. Um, but the fulfilling part, I think, or at least the part that I connect to within my current role, is doing it as a team. So we're still, for me, it still feels like I'm playing a competition where we have to win. Um, and especially in startup, like if you have to be good every day, otherwise you don't have like a business in a year or so, because that's the reality of working at a startup. Um, and that's sort
Well,
of the
that there,
same.
I was going to say that there is interesting for you to say. And no one said that to me before. As a startup, it's you got to be good every day. You've got to show up and bring your A game, and that's what it was like as a footballer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I played at Ajax at a given moment, and that was the top team, the top club in the country.
Yeah,
And you don't
one of the top
go
teams in
there,
the world.
yeah, and you don't go to play for such a club and not bring your A game every day. So you kind of have to show up every day, and obviously that's really hard and doesn't, and it's impossible to be top every day. But it should be your aim, and that's also what I try to do in my work as well. Like there are going to be days that I don't feel great, but I'm going to try and push
Mhm.
myself through to at least do the to get to that 7 or 8 that I need to be every day.
Yeah. So tell me, you mentioned before that that addictive nature, that desire to be good at something. What is it that helped you to realize you were good at football?
Um, Probably other people saying or telling you that you're good. There's don't know how it is set up in other countries, but in the Netherlands, like before you get to like national teams, they're like district teams, you get sort of selected, and those the younger you are, the more local those districts are, and they sort of become more like statewide, and then they go countrywide. So that's the first step that you take when you're like 11 years old. You get selected for such a team, and then you get selected with the best in your region, and then you kind of figure out, okay, I'm actually really good at what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And I was a goalkeeper, and those are pretty rare at the time. So if you're good at that, you really stand out, which was the case with me.
Yeah. Okay. And so that, well, like you say, so you were good. You went to that next level. I'm getting a sense there's a good competitive edge that came through. What was that like for you then at Ajax when you're playing? Well, in fact, talk to me about that Ajax experience. What were you? Is this you as a 15-year-old? Is this you as an adult? What are you at Ajax?
Yeah, so Ajax women's team joined in 2012. So then was already other teams that we were playing for, like ADO Den Haag and other Dutch clubs. And so they joined in 2012. They basically took almost all the best players that they wanted, including myself. At the time, I was 20, I think, 19, 20. Um, at that time, I was like a very talented sort of upcoming goalkeeper trying to knock on the national team's door. So it made sense. I come from the region. I live in Amsterdam, so it made sense to also select me. And it was really nothing that none of us had ever experienced before. Like you were playing for the biggest club. It was our dream. Just the sponsorships from Adidas, like the clothes and stuff, was amazing. But the side note is we did play like we didn't get paid, or there was still very much a 50-50 culture within the club that wasn't happy for us being there because we were women. So there's always been still a feminist sort of struggle within football, but the Ajax experience in general was kind of nice. I mean, just playing for your dream club was the most amazing feeling ever. Um, Having
Mhm.
these fans that did want you there. So no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what were you aiming for when you were there? What did you aspire to achieve as a footballer?
My dream for some reason had always been winning the Champions League above like World Cup or European Cup. I don't know why, but for some reason that was something that I always dreamt of. Um, and that's something we were far, far from, because the national competition in the Netherlands isn't as great as in like Germany, France, or England or Spain. But that was something that I aspired. We didn't even, I think, qualify in the 4 years that I played there, which was a shame. But still, and champions of the Netherlands, which also didn't work out. So it wasn't the most fruitful 4 years. But yeah, those were my aspirations at the time.
Yeah, wonderful. So you talk about not getting paid to be a footballer. So what were you doing outside of training?
Yeah, so at the time, I was still finishing my studies. Like a lot of us, we either studied or we had a little job next to it. Because we all knew, like, now it's fairly different. You could live off it in some cases, but at the time, you knew there was going to be a career after or next to your football career. So that was I was doing my marketing studies at the time, sort of making a plan in my head. Okay, once all of this is over, um, I want to probably, at the time I was like a big Adidas fan. I thought maybe, you know, there could be a connection there. But yeah, I was like only 20 at the time when I started for Ajax, so still a long way to go.
I like the way you say that. I think for many 20-year-olds listening, they're thinking, I'm already there. I already know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I have the plan. I'm just going to get that done instead.
yeah,
Sounds like you had a level of maturity, perhaps beyond your years. So I'm curious then. So you knew that at that time, football was always going to have to be alongside a career, alongside a more traditional way of working. And sounds like for you at the time it was marketing. So at what point did you, what? So what happened? Why aren't you playing today? What's going on?
yeah, yeah. So when I was 20 and making this plan, I didn't realize that at 24 I would have to, end my career due to an injury. I was just going to leave Ajax, on my way to sign with probably my dream club, Olympique Lyon, which honestly I never thought would ever happen. Like as third goalkeeper, second goalkeeper, and when I was there, one way ticket. Like my first training, I twisted my ankle severely and tore it off. Like it was completely blue, and it was just before I had signed, so they couldn't keep me on, which meant that I had to go into recovery by myself with no club. Had to have an operation, where it was very doubtful if I could ever play again, kind of thing. So I finished off my studies, went to the States to see if I could still play a bit, um, and came back with a decision to end my career and try and, make the best out of this other career, um, in
Mhm.
marketing, or at least just in work in general, because I had no idea really. Um, like I studied marketing because I had to do something. I thought that was a good idea and I liked it. But once you stop playing
So
football, it's a lot to figure out.
how did you figure that out, Laura?
Honestly, it wasn't just like I woke up one day and, oh, I'm going to work in a tech startup kind of thing. I started working when I came back from Florida at the time. I just found a job at Under Armour in a financial role just to earn money. And I knew that wasn't the job that I wanted, but needed something for the time. And then I started looking for marketing sales roles, found one. And that's how I sort of progressed to where I am now. I landed from my job there, I landed into a tech industry role, or at least tech startup, an agency helping tech startups. And since then, I fell in love with the industry, with the startup life, with growth, marketing, sales for those types of um, companies. Um, yeah,
Yes. So during that period, emotionally, what was that like for you having to, I guess, walk away, hobble away from your football career?
it was very hard to be honest, and it took me a while to accept the fact, especially because the year that I quit was 2017. Just that summer, the Dutch national team, women's team, became European champions. So everywhere that I went or worked, or people would ask me, "Hey, do you know this name or that name?" And I was like, "Yeah, those are literally people that I used to play with, or you guys grew up with, or are my friends." Um, so I lost my entire identity because all my friends were all of a sudden well-known, famous people, and nobody knew who I was, and it was very confronting. Like I did not make that cut, or I have to now do a financial job here at Under Armour. It was rough. and it took me quite a while to accept it because you did something you loved, you were really good at it, and you had to sort of come to terms with the fact that you would never do that again, ever. And that dream that you once had will never be fulfilled. And that is pretty tough. If you've been doing that for the last, I don't know, 20 years, that's what you've been working on. So it was rough.
Yeah, I mean, during that period, what was the biggest struggle for you at that time? What was the hardest thing to go through?
Um, so I guess, as I said, like coming to terms, but also work, like keeping yourself motivated to work through it and find that new passion. So like the first two jobs I had, honestly, I didn't really like that much. And I was really struggling because I thought, oh, I could also be standing on a football field. Did I make the right choice? Did I, shouldn't I have tried? And I tried to then come to terms with myself. No, you made a choice because you were injured. You're not going to be the best version of yourself on the field anymore. So you have to become this other version of yourself for the future. And that, takes time until I found a job that I really got excited about, as I said, in the tech industry, and started to see this future for myself where I thought, oh, I can actually become really good at this, and I can probably create my new stage with this, and become that competitive person again, and do what I love. Um, so yeah,
I love that. I love the way you said create your new stage, a new place for you to play and to perform as an actor in this regard. Being true to yourself, but it's still that stage for you to put on that wonderful performance again.
yeah, exactly.
And what you said there, which was interesting, was coming away from football meant you were not was because you weren't able to be that best version of yourself. And so those first two jobs, you just didn't, it didn't sync with you. You weren't enjoying them. You didn't enjoy them, in fact. And so as you then started to see through the growth startup, there was this opportunity for you to find something else that you were passionate about, indeed, perhaps something else that energized you to go ahead and perform. What do you think it was about the industry back then that made you go, hey, I can I can do this?
Um, if I like compared it to the previous things that I did, like job wise, I think it's also the fast pace. I learned so much in such a short pace of time. I saw so much more progress in what I was doing. So I noticed that I felt excited about making that progress. I saw the cool things that were happening in the industry and how people were talking about it. Um, it just got me very excited. It wasn't like this very slow corporate kind of thing. No, it was all these people with great ideas just going for it and posting, pitching, doing. Things sort of didn't go well, did go well, but people were just doing things, and that got me really excited. I thought to myself, okay, I can hop on this train and be part of this and have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like you are having fun with it, which is great.
Yeah,
And when you spoke about being good at football, I asked you, how did you know? Well, it's because, you described to me, one, people told you that you were good. And secondly, you could see this progression from your local club to the district, region, county to get to that Ajax, to that national level. How does that compare to the industry or to the role that you're in today?
yeah, good question. So I think, like if I look back at where I started, like as in somebody you know who works within a team or gets managed or stuff. There was this one founder, David, from Jogo, like the two companies before this, who was actually my client at my previous company, and I have a lot to thank to him. He basically took me and said, "Okay, you're going to do our marketing and whatever else." It was a data football startup, so it matched perfectly. And he gave me all the confidence in the world. Although I knew and he knew I wasn't maybe the best at the time, but he gave me that confidence, and he made me feel better about myself, and he made me feel that I could do stuff. So he progressed my sort of career as well. And my current job, I actually working with the same sort of founder who's giving me that same confidence, and is making me progress a lot more, because they're giving me that time and space, but also putting faith in me. And I think that's also what happened when I was young. People put faith in me. They saw my talent, and and then over time, over 20 years of time, I became really good. So that's also how I'm trying to look at this now. I'm good at my job, but I'm not that. I don't have that 20 years in my backpack that's going to make me that best. So I also understand it's going to be a journey, and frankly, for me, I have people around me that believe in me, that let me grow, and give me the sort of tools to grow and progress. So that's why I sort of know, okay, I'm doing a good job. I'm on the right path. Still need a lot to learn, but I'm getting validation.
And that's great, that validation that you say you're getting, because you talk about that need for feedback, that need for guidance, in order for you to be able to become a master at your trade. It's odd. There's a sense of humility in that approach that you've just described there. One that we don't always put to athletes. We never really put them as humble individuals. But what you've described there is this desire to learn, this desire to get better incrementally, or not just every job, but you said earlier, every day. How do I improve myself every day and move forward?
Mm-hmm.
So, in this growth, in this startup context, wow, that must mean you're really demanding on your boss to say, "Hey, how did we do? How did we do? Did we move forward? Was this a good thing?" Is that what it's like to work with you, Laura?
I think so, but I think if you're like at least the founders that I've worked with are very demanding themselves, and I think that's what I've been enjoying a lot. Um, like I think I'm a better person, or more, how do you say? I can reflect a little bit better than when I was young. Because when you're young, you're still sort of stuck in your own ways. You want to do better, but it's a bit more complicated at times. So now this sort of being very open and honest with each other and sort of strict really works well for me, because there's no, like, how do you say, beating around the bush, and we can really get to things. So we're demanding on both sides because we both want to win. We sometimes make jokes about how we're playing Champions League, and so we're not playing some stupid little league. We're playing the best league, and we need to perform. So yeah.
This is good. So you are still competing for that Champions League win
Yeah.
that is, part of your dream. So it's still going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like the way you describe that. I like the way you talk about that being demanding on both sides. When you look back then at what helped get you to where you are, and I mean on the field as well, and in the roles that you're in, what do you recognize is common amongst those managers?
um, yeah, I think the creating a common goal, right? So if you feel like there's being something demanded from you just because it's being demanded, or it's just for one person, but if you have a common goal, it becomes really easy, right? And if the playing field is leveled, which I feel in my current work is a lot more than I used to experience sometimes with trainers. Now the level field is far more, the playing field is far more leveled. It feels more like, okay, we both decided that we want this, so I can hold you accountable, and you can hold me accountable. Um, and that's I think the main thing that we used to have in football as well. Among teammates, we could be very direct with each other because we agreed upon the same goal. We both want to become champions. So, and you agreed that you're going to do your role, and I'm going to agree that I'm going to do my role. So if you're slacking or if I'm slacking, we can tell each other.
Yeah. I'm kind of with that, and I'm reflecting myself, and it's like, yeah, what you've described there is on a field, it's or in sport. that team comes together, certainly if it's at a high performance or elite level. And whilst there is a sense of selection by a coach or by a manager to pull that team together, there is an element of, I guess, self-identification to say, hey, I want to be picked. I want to be part of this team. So either I'll trial or I will do my effort to demonstrate I want to be part of this team. And what you're describing is in a startup environment, or certainly in environments where you thrive, where you're living today, there is this dual sense of, hey, if you applied for this role, let me be really clear about what it's like to work with me and what it's like to work in this company. And so you get in this kind of dual buy-in, so that you're giving one another the right to be demanding to one another to operate at that high performance level.
Yeah, no, 100%. The way I see it, if you work for like an entrepreneur or a startup, and you agree to do the job for them, you have to understand that it's I don't want to say like a matter of life or death, but it is very vulnerable. Like if you don't do your job very well, you're costing the company or the startup or the entrepreneur a lot of money for time that they actually needed from you, and which they're not getting, and that is could potentially cause the company to fall over. Whereas if you would work in a more stable company, if you're slacking a bit or if you're not doing it, it's less recognizable and it won't matter as much. So I do feel that if you make that commitment, you should really also go for it. And I think a lot of people don't understand what it means to work in a startup, or it's a lot of pressure, which I like and enjoy. But that's also something for us to sort of properly communicate. Um, but it also goes for the same. I've experienced this in football as well. You've chosen to play here, so now you have to give it. You can't just be here for the name. You actually have to want this, and that's, I think, really important in our day to days.
Yes. You say it very matter of fact. It's like, hey, this is what it's like. Get over it. You got to deal with this. If you're going to work with me, this is what it's going to be like. It does seem as though you're quite upfront in terms of setting that up, though, with individuals. So it leads me then to ask, in your current role as you're part of this team, what do you think? Well, I suppose what do you think is the hardest part of your job today?
Um, I think it's still aligning everybody on, like, or getting people on board to do stuff and understand as well, like, because this is a conversation I often have in my previous roles as well with founders, is making everybody understand, like, it does really matter, and we don't get me wrong, we don't have a culture of like working 80 hours a week. No, everything should be doable in the time that you do, but just more commitment from, okay, I need ownership from you. I can't create every task for you, and same goes for me. And like, I can talk about it now in that way, but when I first started working, especially my first like work in a startup, I was like, oh wait, this is something else is being asked from me. So I also had to adapt and change, because I had learned something very else at my previous jobs. So it's I think getting everybody to understand, like, okay, this is a chance and an opportunity for you to grow and progress in the company, or grow and progress as a company. But you do need to adapt a little, or like take ownership,
Well,
and that
how did
mindset,
how did you
training that mindset. Sorry.
Yeah, you're going to say that training that mindset is hard. So how did you deal with that at the start?
Um, I think I don't think I had like the best sort of or experience that I would advise other people to have. My founder at the time, we butted heads quite a bit, but I don't know, because I was like, in football, you also have to kind of be direct with each other, which is fine. So I think I just got very direct feedback constantly, until I sort of listened, or until I took that to heart. So as I say, it wasn't the best. I wouldn't advise that. But we got along. We had a
So
little of a love-hate relationship, but
okay,
it worked
okay.
out.
So what is it? What is it you wouldn't advise?
Um, Like I think mm, getting a bit, how do you say, getting too direct or too strict or too sort of nailing down on somebody's mistakes instead of focusing on like, okay, this is focus more on what the common goal is. Make people understand that there's an opportunity. Make people understand um,
Hmm.
that it's also an own choice
Yeah.
to be made. But yeah, don't focus on the negative too much.
And so, and I guess that criticism. So what you're saying there is f- building one another up, and in order to move towards that common goal is a good thing. Doing it in a negative way was actually more harmful. That stopped you really being able to learn and move forward into that role. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, like it worked out um, because I guess I was used to like hearing that very tough feedback from football. But I'm a that's
Go. I was going to say when the ball slips, when the ball goes in at your near post, um, the crowd's going to react. The manager's going to react. Your
yeah,
fullback is going to look at you like, "Uh,
yeah.
"What are you doing?" Right?
Well, that's the thing, right? So for me, it was very common and normal, and I always used to get angry, and I used to turn that anger into productivity, because that's sort of how I used to deal with things. And when I had that first experience, I was like, "Oh, this is how things maybe get done." And then I realized in my job, in my role as a manager once myself, that I can't be that tough with people because people don't have that experience, and people will feel attacked or upset or so I had to learn that. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't my best approach at times because I had a bit of a mentality, kind of like I'm doing this as well. So come on, because you're also a bit stressed and you want things to happen. So fortunately, I've learned from that. But yeah, it's been a ride.
Yes, yeah. So that's good, and thanks for sort of getting that bit more specific on there in terms of you, I guess, spraying off at everybody when a mistake is made, and for them it's a new thing. For you as an elite athlete coming from that, hey, you made a mistake. Yep, everyone's going to swear at you and come at you and do all of that, and then we're going to keep going towards it, towards that goal of winning the game or whatever that might be. So you said you had to learn. How did you learn? Were you taught, or did you just start to see, oh, they quit, they quit? Maybe it's me here. What was your process of learning?
Yeah. So fortunately, people didn't quit. It wasn't that bad. Um, I think the process was multiple things. At first, because it was almost like realizing, okay, I got spoken to like that at my previous startup. Did I actually really enjoy that? No, it worked for me. Some self reflection. Then also the founder I was working for at the time also saying to me, like at the new one, he was like, yeah, take it easy. You can handle that kind of talk, but not everybody can. I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Self reflection, um, and also maybe just looking at not getting like it didn't help. I wasn't getting more out of these people, maybe even less. So then I thought, okay, this isn't working. They are not the same as me or some other colleagues. I need to handle this differently. Because for some it did work. Like, you motivate and just tell them, hey, this really wasn't good. I need you to do more. Um, Worked for some, and for some it had to be a more gentle approach. So what I've basically learned is that there are different people, obviously, and they have different ways of working. And as a manager, you have to sort of feel that, like, what does everybody need, and how do you handle that, and how do you get the best out of people. So yeah, that was my journey on learning.
Now, those are some good points. You mentioned being receptive to feedback from others. So a manager telling you. You also spoke about self-reflection in terms of learning, and is thinking, well, is it just me? What about other people? And then you also looked at the outcome. You weren't getting the outcome that you wanted. So your behavior towards someone didn't result in the outcome that, well, anyone wanted really. So then you had to start to adapt. And so I think just breaking down those things in order to help you really learn how to become a manager, become a leader, those steps I think are quite important. Really, just to just to dwell on, just to think about and say, yeah, okay, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So now as a leader, so you as a leader in this startup world, being a key part of the team. I suppose I'm just curious, just flipping back, what role does sport play in your life today?
Um, I mean, it has shaped me a lot. It has given me, I think, certain um, talents and also knowledge that I take in my day-to-day work. I think it's given me an experience that like. I've experienced something that only a very small part of the population has experienced. Although at the time, my entire world experienced it, because that's what all my friends did. Um, but it's given me a wider view of the world, wider view of people in general. You get out of your current bubble because you play with everybody from all over the world. Um, and I think today I'm still, my a lot of my friends still play. I have friends that are like reporters on TV. So that's sort of the
Mhm.
connection that I still have. I talk to them about it. Not so long ago, I was invited to talk on the radio. So there's still some, a connection there. But yeah, I think uh, not as much as maybe sometimes I would like, but it's also okay.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So listen, if you had to change one thing in your history, yet remain where you are today, what would that one thing be?
Um, I think probably the moment. Oh, no, that's a hard one actually. Ooh, it's either so I got injured twice in a severe moment. One was before the European Championships, and I didn't get to go when I was 19. Or just the moment before I got to sort of sign for Lyon, which was pretty cool and would have been pretty fun, and probably made my dream to win the Champions League come true. So I probably
Yeah.
choose that one. Yeah.
Mhm. To have avoided injury. Um, I'm sure the wish of many people, but
Yeah.
I too have a soft spot for Lyon, Olympique Lyonnais, having lived there for a couple of years myself, and I think as a club it's pretty cool. And actually, now being in Australia, I do recognise Ellie Carpenter is there at Lyon, so she therefore by default becomes my favorite Australian player because she's probably at one of my favorite clubs. So I'll give her that as well. And so I guess for you now, as you look at where you are today and you think about your friends who are, I guess, still playing, they're going to be listening to this. And although they may never ask you directly, or not yet, they'll say, how can I transition better? How can I make sure that they learn from the struggles that you've gone through in terms of your transition? What what would you say to them? What would you say if they asked you, how can I set myself up best for my life after the game?
Um, yeah, I think especially the coming to terms and accepting, which might be a bit easier for them because they finished their career in a natural way. But I think it still will be hard, and to sort of come to terms with that as soon as you can. Not saying that you have to forget about where all of it, but not hanging too much onto what was, and looking at your new talents and looking into how can you use what you've learned and what you've experienced for your next career, because there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's exciting to learn and evolve again.
Yeah, it is that excitement. And I guess it's leaning into that excitement and getting ready to, as you say, evolve and find your second wind is probably one. It's another exciting period or an exciting chapter of one's life. So I think those are wise words, Laura. And I want to say thank you very much for joining me on the show today. Really appreciated understanding, well, not just your story, but I think the perspective and the steps that you took. So thanks for sharing today, Laura.
You're welcome. Well, it was really fun. Thank you for having me.